Action Comics number 1044, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Riccardo Federici, Will Conrad, Lee Lowridge, Dave Sharp, and on the back we have David Lapham and Trish Molaville. And this book, while I enjoy it for the most part, because the thing is,
it's just
it is
weird,
just taking us down a weird road now where we're just systematically taking out all of the lieutenants of Mongol while Mongol can't do anything about it, it seems like. For even though he is the Mongol who is the freaking ruler of warworld, the scourge of the freaking star system, for some reason, Superman and his merry band of fucking assholes in the freaking warworld can just go around. Yes, they have an orphan box, can teleport. They don't even know where they're going half the time they're talking about, but we're just, all right, we took out teacher. Now we have a baby in a freaking tube. We call him orphan. We're going to talk to the little baby so that the baby can tell us where the witch is, because witch has June moon, and we're going to get our merry band of assholes back together and finally take it to the Mongol who is. I'm like, cool. And then somehow, on top of all of this, we got to freaking really explore the idea of Genesis being source wall energy and what it means and how things work with it. Because when you get to the baby in the tube and orphan and the idea that you have to go back to the No Justice storyline for Justice League that Scott Snyder was writing.
I laughed so hard when I saw that you were it would drive you nuts.
Oh my God. But when you have here's a spacefaring family and the mother's pregnant and oh my God, the source wall just exploded. What are we going to do? And then you find out there's this techno-organic kind of thing that, took this baby and combined it with source wall and made it so it was able to continue to gestate within the mother and then be its own thing because of source wall energy. And then the Mongol found this, this baby, it's got the blood of the source wall, the Genesis. We're going to take this orphan baby and we're going to make, mother boxes cry with our orphan boxes. I'm like, you do whatever you want, Mongol.
Exactly. And when you're going through this and you go back to see this family in a flashback to the No Justice story,
it's a techno-familiar.
I might be a bad person, but their almost Yoda-esque speech drove me nuts, and I wanted them to die, and they did.
I thought I was having a stroke, Jim.
I was so happy. It was driving me nuts. It was driving me nuts. I actually thought that I wasn't reading all the words.
I thought I wasn't reading properly. Like I said, I thought my brain did something wrong just because it's the idea. It's the thing is, it's not a bad idea because you have an alien spacefaring family and they're talking not proper English, because we do all the time,
Yeah,
but the idea,
you know us.
Reading it really kind of threw me off, and it's nothing wrong with it. It's just it bothered me because I thought there was something wrong with my brain.
I wanted them to die when they're like, is getting anxious. I'm what is that? What is this? It
Look
almost
how
comes
Hughes talks like that. I want Hughes to die.
I'm used to anxious. You are, the Yoda deal, but they twisted it a bit. It almost felt like you had Yoda translate something and then have somebody else translate it back, and it didn't quite make it there, and it was driving me insane. But my big thing of this, and I think it's well written. I think that the dialogue is good. I like all that, but it feels like, as a joke, that I'm being told about the Gear Wars. I am there and I'm hearing terms that I don't know and end up seeing things that I know they're important. They're there, but do we actually need them? And it's starting to get, and I said before, Philip Kennedy Johnson, he is really invested in the lore. I said right away that remember way back in the first time you ended up having it, I'm like, I don't need this. It bores me. And you're like, oh, well, and you were making fun of me. But at this point,
well, that's just fun.
Well, I know it is. And that was kind of me being a dick right away. I should have been a little more open-minded at first, but we're kind of keep getting that with that thing where I see the light at the end of the tunnel. We know that Cal in September is coming back to Earth.
You go and die, Superman.
And so I want something more to start going here. I want something where
you mean
I'm
just
like, oh my
for
God.
some reason outside of his own death, because that's where I'm always going with the idea, but the idea that he has to come back and hang out with John for an issue or so.
I would love to say, okay, we have till December when maybe that. No, he's coming back to hang with John a couple issues before they end up catching up to the timeline. So we only have a couple issues left.
I imagine it's going to be something kind of weird orphan box thing where Superman gets teleported back to Earth, almost like the way that we have Natasha talking to Steel at the end of this. And then he's like, I got to go back because all these people are counting on me. Sorry, John. I love you, boy.
When he goes back, he's just going to end up going off to die anyway. But when you're going through this and you end up, and I do like some of the things. I think there are little bits when he ends up with the kids and he's got to put it goes too far.
It's
too much,
weird though, because we're still showing Superman is the greatest hero the world has ever known, multiple worlds has ever known. So you're going to have a moment with the kids and talk about certain things. But the way you describe this, it's filling up a lot of page space for one, like the idea that you have gladiatorial Superman on warworld with his team of elites. We're trying to get the team back together and we're trying to have a revolution and overthrow the Mongol who is. But when we talk about the idea, what you have a problem with the lore and stuff where the lure anymore seems like the idea that Philip Kennedy Johnson had, but didn't have a place for it. So now we got to quickly tack it on so people can realize how cool this stuff is, but we never really had a chance to explore it. Because even when you have Orphan right here, the baby in the tube, that's one of the lieutenants of Mongol, but like this, it's almost like Quato and Total Recall. I know why you come to me, Superman. Your wounds from that breach are still killing. So I'm thinking like, all right, we're reminding people about that breach that like the beginning of Action Comics, like when he go, where him and John and Amanda, like we're fighting Amanda Waller freaking breach monsters at Star Labs satellite. I'm like, and he just started dying because of this. I'm like, okay, we're going to tie that back in here. You fear that your revolution moves too slowly. And I agree it is, because for what we're doing here, that your promise to return to your wife and son may not be kept. You all need your allies. Reunite me with my darling, which is its robot monster that I like to ride in, and I will help you save your enchantress. But you must harness the power of the stone you call Genesis. For that, we will need the help of one who is far, far away from here. And the idea that, I think it just dawned on me now because Natasha is featured in this panel when Quato here is saying this. So apparently Natasha then has to use the Genesis piece to talk to her Uncle John in the backup storyline, which feels weird. But the idea, like, we have to get Darling, but we still have to go and fight this witch who seemed like in the previous issue, at least to me, was not one of the lieutenants that they originally fought when, the Elite first got, or the Authority first got, Superman and the Authority. Yeah. For when Superman and the Authority first got here and they fought the witch, was one of the lieutenants that we had. It didn't feel like when we were talking about June Moon and who has her previously, that it was the same kind of entity, or even when we have the idea when we can Genesis teleport ourselves over there and do this whole thing where it's like, she turns into a gigantic monster, right? And that's why I didn't think it was the same character, because she looked like, the Plague from Dead by Daylight for the way she looked previously and how she looks for a moment here. But even when Superman goes and steals from her to the point where she's like, she like almost feels like Mongo is afraid of her until she confronts Mongo. Mongo's like, "You ain't shit, bitch."
Yeah, you ain't anything.
It's
and
weird
then
because
in that there's the tied-in deal that you have to have some sort of energy and things to reignite Light Ray, and that feels very.
Oh my god!
And for the side deal,
you mean Black Razor.
Yeah, for the side deal here, when you say that he has
all
all
bunch
this
of necromongers now.
Yeah, I'm gonna end up, and I'll explain this in a geeky way of when I was a kid. It reminds me there was this kid, Matt, who lived across the street from me, and we would play Dungeons and Dragons. And he would spend.
Pretty cool.
It was kind of cool. We'd play on his back porch. We'd have lemonade and stuff. He would end up where, and just as an aside, I was really young, and I ended up. His mom was a big smoker, and she would bring out the iced tea, but she'd be smoking, and I wouldn't drink it.
Hey there, hotties, you guys look parched.
I thought she was putting the ashes in it. I had this crazy deal that she was fucking with us. I don't know why. But with that, we would play, and he would spend a long time. He's like getting the adventure going. And the big problem, and this is how I feel like Philip Kennedy Johnson, how this ties in. We would go, and he'd like, hey, you go past, and there's a monolith to the right and a forest to the left. What do you want to do? Oh, we want to go to the monolith. But the thing is, he spent so much time on that forest that he wanted us to go there.
The forest, you say.
What he would say is, you hear a voice from beyond that says, go to the forest. No, we don't want to go to the forest. No, you're compelled. All of a sudden, he makes us roll. And we're like, oh, roll. Oh, you go to the forest.
Oh, no, the monolith just teleported you to the forest.
He ended up having, pages and pages, this huge, Philip Kennedy Johnson warworld Bible. But then all of a sudden they said, listen, 2 issues from now, you're going to have to go back to
wrap it up.
But I have all this stuff that I wanted to do, so I better throw it in here. And we do get stuff like Light Ray at the end. I mean, we do get things that we wanted, right?
But even the idea where we're told by Teacher previously, who's one of the lieutenants who is now dead, though, of like the idea of going to OMAC, like, you work for us, we'll bring your precious Light Ray back. We still want to know more about these characters because the OMAC and Light Ray that are on this team seem to be from the Tangent universe. And we want to know more about them and how the powers work and whatnot. Because even previously in the Action Comics, we had the Genesis tell us that Light Ray is, and we want to know what that means as well. And hopefully we'll get to that point. But OMAC's like, look, I will betray Superman and all these other fools. I'll work for you. Just bring my love Light Ray back. And they're like, okay, we can do this because even though we're, doing warworld stuff, technology, we're also fucking necromancers or some shit.
We can do whatever.
Because the thing is now the Teacher's dead. He's the one that made the promise, so he's dead. He can't really do it, but we have other alchemists or whatever that Mongo's dealing with. Like, okay, you guys, bring this Light Ray back to life. We're having trouble over here. And Omac's like, why are you having trouble? And Omac's like, Mongos are like, you know what? I am Mongo Is, and the Mongo who is doesn't give a shit about what I told you I would do. You'll just be happy that you get anything, because in front of Omac, Mongos are like, look, you alchemists, if you can't get her freaking soul back in her body, because it has been a little while, just put whatever nonsense you can find and put that in there, because as long as it's back, Manga can say he did what he did. But the idea then is like, okay, we're going to use our alchemy at the end. The alchemist at the end of this whole thing is like, all right, we summoned the Mongol who was to help us do this nonsense over here and do this. And eventually we do get Light Ray back alive through all the freaking warworld black magic mumbo jumbo. But she's been corrupted. And now she's not just the Light Ray. She has to be changed because of the freaking dark magic that was used and how she's come back. So now she's the Black Razor, not the Black Racer, the Black Razor. And I'm really interested to find out how that's going to work out. For the most part in this issue, though, while you have nice moments like, okay, we're going to go get June Moon back. But before we go and have this, I got to go talk to some kids in this one cell we're sleeping in tonight because I made them a Kandorian puzzle boxes that we call Kotaris.
Yeah.
The idea, like, I made this out of wood for my son. And my pa, he can make a bunch out of wood. What's wood? Well, let me tell you what wood is. And all I can imagine is Kandorians and puzzle boxes and how they're summoning Pinhead on Warworld. And that's all I wanted.
I'm telling you, the idea where they're talking and, okay, you made this puzzle.
You open the box, you summon me.
It remind me of that as well. But the idea of having to explain, again, this is where I think Philip Kennedy Johnson does a good job at one side of he's thought things out, but I don't know that I need to find out why that the puzzle box isn't made of wood and explain what wood is. But this is our moment to showing
this is Superman. It's the Superman that we all want him to be.
Yeah, he's a nice guy and he misses his son and he's being nice to these kids because they should have, a little nice childhood and they have these boxes.
They should have Hellraiser puzzle boxes too.
Hey, can we have the boxes? They're not done. Yeah, but they're not done. Can we?
Yeah. Run along, you scamps.
Take them. Oh, my goodness gracious. You remind me of my son. Go off to a volcano.
He's all
and
aged up now.
Go age up and get
I actually never knew my son when he was your age.
Yeah, really. He's like, I have no idea. I'm trying to go and make up for lost time. Get out of here, you scamp. And then all of a sudden, you hear cats in the cradle. All these things going on, Eric, is what I hear. But, yeah, it's just kind of a crazy, like, you're getting too much information about nothing. And then you end up having the stuff, like some of the stuff, the Black Razor, Eric, and that sort of deal is okay. And I like that, even though it does. What was the Dark Multiverse Flash Batman called? Do you remember? Because that's what it looks like to me. It looks exactly like that Dark Multiverse deal. And it scares me. But you have this going on. I actually was trying to type, but I ended up having to look at this. But yeah, so that's what it looks like, almost like even a bit of the Drowned in there, a little mix in there. Oh my goodness. But we'll see what this means. If you end up Sometimes Dead is Better, we'll have to find out what the deal is. But we go to A World Without Clark Kent story in the background. And I do like the David Lapham, almost like a older
Red
school type deal. Okay, Red Death. You end up where you go to this, and this is the story that we actually were enjoying a bit. Lois, you have John Henry Irons, Steel, Supergirl, all this going on. And it just kind of like they're trying to save Thal, and it just kind of meanders.
Well, it's such a weird situation because we go to Steelworks, which is great because we have John Henry Irons looking into the whole Genesis problem, the idea that we have him working on Thal, because everybody who was a part of this whole, better go screw over Superman movement that Manga was doing to get his ass over there. But they've been exposed to Genesis, and because they're exposed to so much Genesis now that they're having terrible source wall withdrawal, I guess how you could say the idea. But before, where it seemed like, oh my God, it's killing her, that was fine because it made sense. But now it seems like the idea is she is almost expelling electrical energy, and I have no idea why that shuts down Steel's generators, the computer equipment. It almost seems like she's going to explode, like she's the electric Superman Blue back in the day, to the point like, oh my God, we got to get at her. And it just leads to Supergirl flying her up to the sun. Like, this is what Kryptonians need, whether they're Phalosian or not.
Whether or not why we didn't do this before. And I'm waiting. I'm like, what are you doing? So I thought, here, heave ho, right in there. Like, it helped me when I was a Red Lantern.
But what is this part here? Because you have Kalex as a part of this whole thing. When, Thal is throwing out all this electrical energy. It's like, the life support chamber is unresponsive with the patient trapped inside. If we fail to restore power, she will die in moments. And then, Kara shows up. Everyone get back. I'm getting her out of there. And Kalex is like, Kara Zor-El, the chamber was designed to withstand physical force and energy blasts from even Kryptonian level threats. You will not be able to. And then John's all like, Kalex, she said get back. And just because John Henry Irons says get back,
says that?
now we can actually pierce this thing with Kryptonian physical.
She punches it.
Like, what is this? Why did that happen?
Doesn't make sense. It It doesn't make sense. You should have just had this be that normally maybe that's the case, but this electrical Thal law has kind of, the integrity of it. It's cracking. Everybody get out of the way still because it's going to explode. But Kara says, I'll do it, and ends up grabbing. But yeah, you can't do it. But then it's almost like, look how great Supergirl is, but you can't do that. You can't say that you can't do it just to have her do it and then go up into the sky. Hey, bake in the sun, baby. You're out there like, hey, I'm full ocean. It doesn't work. Who knows? But she's going to end up.
By the time we get her ass, like flying up to the sun, like energy is pouring out of her mouth and eyes like she's Lo Pan from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, it does look like that. And yeah, maybe it's like, I don't know what happened. The sun did shit. She's dead. Kara comes back.
Oh, well.
Well, what'd you do? I threw it into the sun. That's what we do.
Turns out without her power, she suffocated in space.
Yeah. Oh, my God. She can't breathe. Look at her. But yeah, it's very odd. And then you get the call from Natasha. So that ends up, it looks like all along. And it does make everybody seem like dummies. Like the idea that the sun will cure this. And all of this, though, with, Thal Law, we just have to take her up to the sun. Why didn't we think of that? But then they end up with, hey, Genesis, all this.
We have to refine it into something stable or maybe convert it into radiation somehow. We found someone who can help us, but we need technology that doesn't exist here. We need to solve this together. If we can harness Genesis, we won't just save a life. We won't just save Warworld. We'll change everything. So the idea is, it's a great idea in my mind where you have Superman and the Authority on Warworld doing things. If you have a connection here because of the Genesis piece that's still on Earth with Steel and Lois and, and Supergirl being able to do something, even possibly teleport it back and forth and help from here, I'm like, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But when you have Amanda Waller show up in Belle Rev at the end of this room, which doesn't make any sense because of where she's been in the Suicide Squad or anything like that, where they bring in Kenny Braverman, who's the villain Conduit from the 90s, who died out of nowhere and saying, hey, Superman, he's off world, but we got other Superman. You know what? We need you to do Conduit stuff, Braverman. I'm like, it's cool. A lot of people like Conduit. He wasn't around long enough for me to say he's a great villain. A lot of people do love him, but he's dead and now he's just alive. And like Amanda Waller's just having him go do Conduit things for some reason. It doesn't make any sense. Like, is this the idea that we're picking up from Philip Kennedy Johnson's timeline from where Amanda Waller was trying to kill Superman with her breeches and is not playing Suicide Squad rules?
Yeah, I guess. And that's what's weird. Like, we were talking about in the Detective Comics with Mariko Tamaki, and we knew that she never played, around with anything. When you end up Fear State, where she barely figured out and then ended up just at the end, oh, here's my fears. You have this where Philip Kennedy Johnson does want to keep going with a lot of Bendis stuff and things like that, but this didn't feel like it connected well with the rest of the deal, especially with Amanda Waller. And there's two things that bother me at the end here. First is when you say something to set up, Natasha goes, if we can harness Genesis, we won't just save a life. We won't just save Warworld. I wanted Lois. What are we going to save? What are we going to save? We'll change everything. That doesn't make. What are we saving though? It's so weird to go with that to get to that.
We'll save our friendship.
We'll change. Why isn't it? We'll save everything. It will change. I'm like, well, and then when you get to the end, yes, you really stress. I mean, they might as well come in and say, hey, what's up, Braverman? You're pretty cool, Braverman. What's the going down, Braverman? And then he turns around. He's got Braverman on his back. They're really pushing that. But by the end, if you didn't have next the return of Conduit, that last bit, I don't know how many people would know.
When you see the armor opened up in that case, that doesn't really tell you Conduit in my mind.
It's
right off the
very
top of it.
odd. And that is his armor, but it's like real close.
Yeah.
It's so weird that they then have to put next the return of Conduit.
Tony, Conduit has been dead for like 25 years, it feels like, at this point in time.
It's weird. And like when me and you were reading and reviewing, and a lot of people would do, you see Braverman, if you're not aware, and I did have to look it up. I was not reading comics like you were back then. So I look up, okay, Conduit, and then it says the return to Conduit. Okay, that's cool. I'm looking at when he last appeared, first appeared, all of that stuff going on. Did see, when I go to the fandom wikis and it says death, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Especially if it's post-Christ, all that stuff. Did he do stuff
like past Reign of the Superman?
No, it didn't seem like that. Seemed to be it pretty much. And yeah, and so when you go, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool deal for Eric, because that's like, your wheelhouse. That's what you really loved and things like that. So that's kind of
cool. Conduit's fine. I'm just saying that he wasn't around long enough to be like this amazing Superman villain because he's just dead, and then or just gone. But then I think his death was confirmed somewhere later on. But like the idea, like this is going to, I guess it's kind of cool bringing it. Like Superman has so many villains, but like nobody ever gets to play. So if you are going to bring it in, I just wish maybe there was just more than just a dead villain you could bring back like this.
I actually expected Metallo or something.
Metallo would be amazing.
like have Metallo that suddenly he realizes that screw this kryptonite. We figured out how to be a Metallo that runs on Genesis.
I
Eric.
want Toy Man to come out and fuck with John Kent.
Yeah, well, you end up where, and I did write this down, Conduit's first appearance was Superman, the Man of Steel 0, created by Dan Jurgens and Louise Simonson. So, and in the 1995 story arc, Simonson, the 1995 story arc, Death of Clark Kent. So it's kind of a cool deal. That was the name of this, and this is kind of like the same name deal, this backup. So that kind of ties in a little. It's kind of a neat little deal.
It's neat.
Yeah, it's neat.
And the thing is, it is neat, but it's out of nowhere and totally fucks up continuity. In more ways than one, with Amanda Waller and Conduit being alive.
Well, Conduit, we could say, well, you know, you have the
multiverse is recreated.
That's I can go with that.
Yeah, why not?
But it feels weird with Amanda Waller. You have Amanda Waller right now off on Earth 3 doing that nonsense, all that stuff. And
she's doing Dark Crisis nonsense.
Even at that point, remember, I was complaining because when Amanda Waller ended up doing the stuff to Superman, the Breach, he ended up saying, you know, I'm going to get you, and never did. And I said, well, why? And you're like, well, she's doing the multiverse nonsense, so he can't get. But so you have that. But yeah, you end that. And it's still intriguing, the whole deal. I'm still into the story. It just seemed this one. Something weird in some parts, very rushed. The important things rushed, the non-important things.
Well, it started feeling that way like an issue or two ago.
Yeah, why are you spending time with puzzle boxes when you have bigger things to do and you kind of force
Your
some of those
suffering will
in?
be legendary even in hell.
I would quite, what would you give
is just some
overall?
freaking movie basis off made for everything we're doing anymore. But with all this together, I think the art is great throughout the first and second, backup stories and stuff like that. It's just that there's a lot of things going on that feel like they don't need to be here and are just like fun little things that Phil Kennedy Johnson wrote and wanted to make sure we're in here, whether they progress our story or not. And even the idea of like how we are progressing our story feels like it's in a weird way at times where Two Baby is our freaking linchpin to everything to save the day. And because of these things, I end up giving it a 6.8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to be a 7 out of 10. I'm still liking it. It's just, to me, it's a little down issue. When you spend,
Jim.
I mean, when you spend 3-4 pages on the baby's parents, who really, that doesn't mean anything.
The
and they're
orphan,
talking
Jim.
in a way that's just screw me.
And then familiar kept it alive with source energy.
After that, because Superman is a nice dude. I mean, seriously. He ends up hearing the story. And the first thing he goes, listen, I don't want to call you orphan. You have another name? Do you have family anywhere? And I'm thinking, why you have, like, that would be like you. And you're like, no, they're all dead. Like, why are you reminding me of this? But it's him. He's being nice. He's there. Manchester Black. You don't know what's going on. How are you being so nice, Blue? Like, Manchester Black doesn't do shit here either.
No.
I think Midnighter has like almost like he's, Urkel stepping in for a second. Hey, we're going now and I'm coming with you. Hey, everybody claps and then they go off.
Like the idea after we bring Light Ray back to life in this whole thing, and the idea when you have one of the alchemists there brought her back to life, we're entering the final moves and the game favors us now. Faced with this weapon, Superman will have no choice but to seek the fire of Ulgrim. I'm like, are we really in the final moves right now? Because I feel like we still just started this story, even though it's been going on for a while now, because the progression didn't do anything for the longest time. It was more like, felt like it was just showcasing the art and stuff like that for a long time. It didn't even show us where half the characters were. And now it's like, oh, here's this character and here's this character. And we're combining this thing here to make sure that we can move forward. And then this character's back. And now it's the final moves. I'm like, well, shit, that game started to end fast.
Do you think that at some point, because he's there and he's holding the mother boxes, he got that. Do you think that the play with those other puzzle boxes are going to be like those kids are going to have to solve the mother box puzzle and they put it together? And then why would you end up having that whole bunch of pages just really pushing the idea of these puzzle boxes that these kids are doing? It's so weird. But then when I was going through, I see the, hey, we need the answer to the mighty mother boxes. I'm like, that could be almost a puzzle at 1.2. Are they going to play this weird deal? I don't know. I just wonder why you're spending that long a deal on that. But yeah, I'm still a 7, and the art's pretty good. You end up having that art change, which was kind of odd, but kind of works out. It's what we ended up, having in this book and the different artist deal. So once you get to like lore and stuff, you usually have Riccardo Federici. It's okay.